All right.
Recording in progress.
Stop that.
Recording in progress.
Oh, there we go. All right, with that, I guess we're ready to go ahead and start. Hang on a second, let me turn my audio down because otherwise it's going to bug me. All right. Please note attendance. Is Councilman Johnson online with us?
Yes, sir.
There it is. All right. All committee members are present. We'll go ahead and move forward. So please note attendance. I won't ask for a roll call. And we'll move into public comment. So are there any citizens either present or online who wish to make comment before the committee before we get into the agenda at hand? See no hands in the audience, and I see no hands online. We'll then move on with the agenda as presented, unless there are objections. Let's go ahead and approval of the minutes from January 22nd, or June 22nd, sorry. I have no comments or revisions. Joe, are you okay? Councilmember Johnson, sorry. All right, with that, unless there are objections, we will take the minutes as approved. Okay. And at that, the agenda is pretty short tonight, as it is background information in regards to the community center pool. Who wants to cue this up and go through the material?
I can start. Can you hear me? Okay. So actually, our Dana McCall created a great document in here that shows the community center history and how we actually, the community center itself came to be. And there's also a couple bond measures that were close, but failed in getting the community center. And then at one point to add the pool, because he needed, I think they got 55% approval and he needed 60% for a capital bond. So the community center itself was built out of funds that were from REIT and also from developer mitigation funds. And it was built in 2011. And when it was built too small. They, approximately 40% of the residents hold memberships, and that's like the highest saturation rate in the country. So we've been talking about adding a pool since I've joined, well before my joining council in 2017, and we had made a lot of headway in 2019. And during this time, there were some surveys that were performed. The YMCA did a survey of their membership, and then also this during 2018, and then the city did a survey in, let's see, not sure, I think 2018 or 2019. And there's a continual theme across the board where 72% of respondents support the community center expansion and adding a swimming pool. And I tell you, I've ran 5 different campaigns in the last 5 years, and doorbelling, I've doorbelled thousands of houses, and this is always one positive comment. Some are surprised because there's quite a few new people have moved to Snoqualmie. And then when they see, one of my top priorities was to expand the community center and add a pool, there's just a lot of positive comments. So I think there's a lot of residents that are really wanting this swimming pool. So I think this is, keep it on that chart. So we did a comparison. We had the costs from 2019, and it's from the YMCA's construction group that are the ones that usually build their swimming pools. And so we have the 2019 costs, and then we asked for updated costs that are reflecting 2022. And these are actually in 2023 dollars. And so our interim finance director, Jen Ferguson, helped put this together that compares the estimates between 2019 and 2020, and then what it looks like on our CIP. And so some things that were missing out of the 2019 costs were, for instance, sales tax. So there's about almost $2 million in sales tax that were not included. Also, down at the bottom shows what else is included if you take their quote, the 27 million, and you add 2.1 million, you come up with our CIP costs of 29.8 million. And so it includes 1.5 million for the splash spray park. We're proposing to put the pool where the tennis courts are. So that means that we relocate the tennis courts. And so it'd be about $1 million to relocate those, but that's not the total cost of moving the tennis courts. We have to figure out where they would go, and then there might be additional costs there. And then public art is included. And then debt financing. And this is if you've seen on the CIP, the costs that or how we would fund it. And it does include some debt financing. And actually we'll be reviewing that on Monday. We'll have people from, let's see, what is it called? It will be we'll have a muni bond market and public financing discussion. So we'll actually have a presentation from our local group that usually helps with our bonds. So we will be able to ask them any questions there. Our overall goal would be, of course, to continue working on getting all types of grants. So one thing, if you notice on the CIP, it does not include the school district. In 2019, we were actually making really good headway on getting funding through the school district to at least pay for the 3 additional lanes in the pool. So it'd be a 6th lane, so that they would use it for, every 3rd grade student can take swim lessons through the school, or they'd be able to use it for competition pool, swimming pool, for the girls and the boys swim teams. And so we will be in talks again with them regarding funding. So there's some additional funding that could happen, as well as trying to get into the working with our legislatures. This is going to be their biennial budget capital year coming up, and so trying to get additional funds. I think we have in here maybe $1 million or so, but we're hoping for quite a bit more. So our goal is not to do councilmanic bonds, but if we need to, it is in there.
Short note, you guys did see how it showed up in the agenda? It's a little cut up and hard to read, but this is nice.
Right. For some reason, it did cut up the different pages. So ignore those pages. This is all the same information.
Okay, and we're talking 1.5 million in sales tax this year and 7.1 million in 2024. Is that in essence coming out of ending fund balances? And you've identified where those fund balances came from?
Well, so they're looking at the CIP sheet.
Yeah, you want to go to the CIP sheet,
So
please?
sales tax and use of it this year, actually 2023. This year we have 100,000 that we can use that came out of our last budget. So we'll be able to use that for any type of research or utility layouts or whatever. But so the sales tax is just accumulated sales tax, correct? It's not out of the fund balance for the CIP.
I mean, in essence, so we don't have a separate, if you look at the actual CIP worksheet itself, there is no separate breakout for sales tax, so it's incorporated as part of every line that you see there. So there's sales tax associated with design work. There's sales tax associated with construction work, for example, and so that's built into those figures that you see there, and then we've included the anticipated funding mix below that.
Right, and that's the portion I'm referring to. So, we're talking about $8.6 million in sales tax between this year and next year.
Oh, okay. So instead of the sales tax that we would pay, right, that's sales tax that we're collecting that would
Correct.
go towards this. Okay.
That's current sales tax, or is that some ending fund balance money?
That is some ending fund balance money. In essence, yeah, thank you very much for correcting me.
Just trying to understand.
Yes, no, completely understandable. There is a page within the CIP document, starting on page 15. I know you probably don't have the CIP document. We'll get into the tab discussion a little bit, right? For example, where it kind of discusses the sales tax and how much beginning fund balance we would kind of start with, or beginning cash balances we would start with in terms of sales tax. And you can kind of see the breakout of that cash flow forecast for sales tax over the 6-year period.
Which tab was in? You said?
I'm not sure what tab because I've just got the document, but page 15 for me.
Oh, page 15. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Should be in.
Oh, that's
Or page, yes,
Oh, I
page
see.
15 and 16.
16. Right.
No, this will be within tab 3.
Correct.
So really about overall $70,000 comes out of ending fund balance.
How much?
$70,000, if I read this right?
Well, if you look at the
We go
top,
down by $70,000.
yes, for that year, yes, correct. There's an operating transfer included under that sources line of 2.5 million, right? For example, that is coming from the general fund, which consists largely of sales tax for that $2.5 million amount that you see there. And then the non-recurring sales tax is roughly $430,000 over the 6-year period. It's what we're estimating in terms of forecasting. But yes, our sources would, our uses would exceed our sources by $70,000 in that year.
In that year.
Yeah,
And that's for the overall CIP, not just for this.
correct. So there's other projects involved, right? And that would draw money from this source, including the boardwalk project, but that's for 2026 through 2027. But then as well as the ladder truck proposed as well for 2023.
And then you've got, on the bottom, there's bond issuance for 7.5. I should have kept track of them. Does that include financing and interest? Or is that just the bond proceeds?
So that is just the bond proceeds that we would collect as a part of our overall debt payment, right on that is a part of our kind of financial schedules within the CIP document itself, which to me is pages 30, really 33, which is the statement of non-utility CIP sources, uses, and cash balances. You can see that there's an increase in the debt service between 2023 and 2024, which in essence represents the community center bond. And then we've also included a line within our estimated sources section above that says support a bond payment. And you can see that we're estimating the debt service at roughly about $510,000 annually, with a little bit of a smaller amount for 2024.
So, and that's,
So the bond proceeds, the money coming in to pay for the community center itself, but then we have to pay back the bond over time. And so that's factored into our financial schedules moving forward, especially in those summaries that you saw.
okay, and we're talking a 20-year bond,
30-year bond.
30-year bond.
Mhm.
Okay, so, okay.
And I think in addition to that, we also have a section on debts, debt service summary, I believe, or a debt summary starting on pages 20 as well. And so that kind of talks a little bit about the proposed community center bond as well.
So just go those later. I'm not gonna fish through this now. All right, but so what was by year for the term of the 30-year bond? What was the debt? What was the bond service cost?
So that is roughly $510,000 annually is what we've estimated that at.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll just add, one of the things that you're going to see this year is particularly we've got a excess levy that's going to end this year that because we're paying back the full bond on the fire station that was built in 2002, which was a 20-year bond. So in essence, during this year, you will see us no longer have to pay that $250,000 annually on that. In essence, we were collecting an excess levy and property taxes that the voters voted back in 2002 in order to support that. That roughly equals about 6 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. So it will have an impact overall on our property taxes that we collect here as a city, and will help to reduce that kind of overall levy rate that the taxpayers will see.
So were we overcharging, or is it like is there a margin of error kind of? I don't know how taxes work.
Yes. So back in 2002, the voters approved the construction of a fire station, approved a fire station bond, basically. We got the bond proceeds in order to build that. But in essence, over time, we've been paying about $250,000 on debt service for that. That is coming to an end this year. That roughly translates to us today about 6 cents per $1,000 assessed valuation. Currently, right now, the taxpayers are paying, it's about $2.01 per $1,000 assessed valuation. So if your home is valued at, say, $700,000, there's a whole calculation associated with that, right? For example, and so you can reduce that likely by 6 cents, and you'll have a new levy rate kind of moving forward, and that will help to save taxpayers.
You keyed on the term excess levy.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to understand.
Can you define excess levy?
Yeah, so there's a regular levy that it's called the regular levy, right? That the city issues that supports your police, your fire, your parks maintenance, for example. But then also the voters can approve these excess levies in order to pay back.
And it was approved by voters.
It was approved by the voters.
It's not like the city was overcharging or anything like that. This was what the voters approved to make sure that we had enough funds to cover.
In order to cover that debt service. And so that's the term that they use, is an excess levy. And so we got to do a better job myself, right, of defining that so that there's no confusion whatsoever. So I do apologize.
No. I'm not familiar with all the terms.
Yeah,
it's not your fault.
I can tell you there's like a
so.
300-page property tax manual from the Department of Revenue. It can be a headache, and we'll get into that as we have to approve property taxes by the end of the year for 2023. So.
Yeah, I don't know how to ask any of the questions that Brian's asking you about EFPs and BOWs, and
I've seen you enough, and you're doing a great job regardless. So yeah, don't feel bad.
I do have more of a general philosophy about this project question.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it might be a question for you, Madam Mayor. If everybody wants this, why does it keep getting voted down?
That was, where was this?
I mean, I read the thing,
Yeah.
which I thought was The thing that struck me is that the 40% saturation of residents who are YMCA voters, it feels to me like a supermajority would be a really low bar to reach if you've already got 40% of them. Am I misunderstanding it?
Well, if it also was during the time they were trying to pass bonds for schools. And so I think that was the option that they felt. And Dana was like she can come up and answer that question. She was the person that was like pushing for the bond, but it was like schools, no pools during that time.
There's just that, and then historically speaking, supermajority is just hard to get. I worked on the school district bond as well in 2015, and it's just, I don't know how to describe it, but for capital projects to get 60% it's just a tough uphill climb.
It seems like you've already got 40% of this, or you've got 66.7% of that 60% in.
Well, we haven't tried.
YMCA.
We haven't had a bond since it was built, and it had that saturation rate. This was all billing before it was built, and there was always. It seemed like we learned something from each bond. The first one, it didn't have the M&O component, so it raised the question of how are you going to pay to run it. The second one was we ran both, and then it was, is the city equipped to run the facility? And that was, the no campaign comes up with questions like that. And then the last one, people were skeptical about the why. That was what came out of the no component that time around. So
I also remember what was on the bond was a 3-lane pool. And I think I voted no for it. I did not want a 3-lane pool. I wanted a 6-lane pool.
yeah,
Sorry.
there was that.
Right. So we wanted the 6-lane, but we were also at a lot lower population at that time too. And so this would be less expensive, over 14,000 people than it is over, what was that time, 8,000 or whatever. But
Yeah, one of the
Seems like the price tag keeps getting a lot bigger too, though.
It does. Each time we shrunk for the 3 bonds that the city ran, each time we shrunk the size of the facility to keep the price about the same. But the third attempt, we shrunk it down to 30,000, and we had to still ask for more because of just inflationary costs for construction.
Because people walk up to me and tell me what I don't have a whole lot of people coming up to me. I have a whole lot of people coming up to me who are very skeptical about the pool, and I have a lot. The other question maybe you can help me with that I get a lot is, why do I want to spend my tax dollars so the YMCA can run a pool? The sense is that it'd be creating a wonderful pool for the 40% of people who are YMCA members.
well, it'd be a wonderful pool for all residents in Snoqualmie. So you don't have to be a member to use it, but there will be a day usage fee. And so you run into that. Any other pool area, any pool that you use, you're going to have to pay for, right? And so we will use some tax dollars through the Councilmanic. But we have our neighbor that's trying to run a major bond. And so they're going to pay for it that, but they also have usage fees. So you always have usage fees. So you can pay a day rate. Thing that we might mirror what Sammamish does is you have like residents would have a free 1 or 2 free swim days a month, something like that as well. So
The other part of the answer to that is,
look into this.
Well, could you lean away?
the other
from
part,
the mic?
so 2 things.
Oh.
One, you're assuming 100% participation from those who are surveyed, and that doesn't end up being true. You typically get those who are emotional at one end or the other of the spectrum, or those that vote, and unfortunately, the vast majority do not vote. That's why we get the turnouts we do in the United States. It's sad, but true. The other part of it is, to answer why the why, is who better to run a recreational facility like this efficiently than the why? We're not equipped to do it. we would have to staff up to do it. We would be reinventing the wheel from the get-go. The Y has the history, the practices, and everything else, and really have worked out to be a good partner right now for the community center we have, that they're running the facility for us. Again, the community center we own. They just run it for us.
Not only do they do the M&O, they will also do all future capital costs for the facility. Same way that it is now, it would be the same way with the pool and expansion. Looks like Joe has his hand up.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just wondering if the chair had been noticing, but that's okay. Yeah, I was going to essentially say what the chair said is that it's not the Y that's or the YMCA as an organization that is profiting from the pool. It's that they're running the facility, so it is for our citizens. I was curious about something on that last point that the mayor just brought up, so I wanted to dovetail on that, which was about operating costs. I wanted to make sure that this facility, where it's to be built, is funded moving forward, not just in terms of the kinds of expenses it takes to replace parts, do routine maintenance and all that stuff, and the staffing, that all that is covered by the Y as an organization or by us in some proportion, but that all of those kinds of costs are covered.
Yes, it would be. So it's all the maintenance and operating, and then as well as all capital expenses. So if the pool heater goes out, they're replacing it. So they're counting on their membership base to help to fund that. And so that's why they have members or the day fees. So, but they need to increase their membership base as well in order to have this pay off. But they feel very confident because they said, once you start talking about a pool, there's a lot of people that sign up to be members.
I can say that just personally, one of the main reasons that I don't have a membership currently is because it doesn't have all the facilities that I would like to see. So just for me personally, this is an example of the kind of thing that could increase their membership.
I think that's a good point. I think, we had a town hall in 2019. I think we need to have another town hall or some way to, reach out, do public engagement regarding what does it look like now? Do we, they're proposing what people liked in 2019, but there's different things that they're doing now in the Ys, such as you mentioned Auburn, where instead of expanding the footprint of the building, they actually added some portable garage door walls that come up, and now they can work out inside, or they have an outdoor space as well. So there's just a variety of different things that they would be happy to discuss and think about.
I think the town hall idea is a really good one.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I like that idea. I'd like to hear what people have to say about it.
Agreed. Councilman Johnson, you still have your hand up? I'm watching.
Yep. Thanks. Also agree on the town halls, and just in general, I think that's a practice that unfortunately went by the wayside with the pandemic, but perhaps we can bring back the town hall practice in general. Actually I had two other things. For the lanes, in my personal anecdotal evidence of talking to community members and that sort of thing, I have inferred that there is a difference in support for the project depending on the 3 lanes versus the 6 lanes, and the potential for the competitive swimming with the school. So I would strongly encourage us pursuing the 6-lane option if at all possible.
I agree.
Councilmember
I'm not
Benson?
sure that I'd want to build a 3-lane.
Yeah, and participation from the school district, because I think currently the swim team is traveling to, where are they going to, like Issaquah or Renton or something?
Depends when the pool is available. It's like
Yeah.
Hazen. Where's Hazen? That's Renton.
I believe you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's Hazen, and also Bohm, you're right. And then the girls are swimming at the club pool outside until like early November. So
Good heavens. Yeah, I don't think there's any way this passes without a 6-lane pool. But with regard to it seems to me like a supermajority is totally fair when you've already got 40% of the population members of the YMCA. I'm agnostic on voter turnout. Big voter turnout, little voter turnout. I don't care. Whoever votes, votes, and that's what you go with. But it seems to me that if this is something that people are really passionate about, it's got a big old price tag. We need the people who are passionate about it to state their opinion, either in town halls or voting or both. And as far as I'm concerned, whatever they say, that's what the citizens want. This is a lot of money, though. Nobody else is choking on this. This is just an enormous amount of money. I guess we could forego clean water for a few years or something like that.
Well, and so a couple other things. In the past, there are competing interests involved. There have been in the past which fought us. You want me closer to the mic? Let's be aware that Skyview is also looking at a pool and probably talking to the school district, same as we are. And in the past, vehemently campaigned that North Bend and Snoqualmie needed one pool, not two. I think the cities have grown. North Bend is about to grow some more. There may be enough that can support two pools at this stage, so that argument may not hold. What I would suspect is if we were to go, and also be aware, what the administration is proposing is councilmatic, which means we vote on it. It doesn't go on a ballot. If we hold that course, we should be talking to our constituents. We should have a town hall, make sure that we're really getting a sense of the community that they really want to do this. Okay. But again, it's the emotional people who get off the couch. It's the non-emotional people who stay home and don't vote. So that it's easier to get angry than it is to get happy. So you get more of the angry people getting off the couch, which makes getting that 60% harder. Okay? That's just human nature.
Well, yeah, but that's been the case in the whole history of human voting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's so. Your complaint then is that we're dealing with humans.
I'm not complaining. I'm just stating, why is it hard to get to 60% when it seems like such a good deal? It's getting the happy people up to get them to vote to help you get to that 60% is often hard.
All right, I might just be a big fat cheapskate because $30,000. It just keeps getting bigger, and it seems like milk this morning was $4 a gallon. I don't know what it is now.
Yeah.
So we can vote. We can vote on a number, but by the time we're shoveling dirt, that number, the way things are going, that number is going to go up before that. I don't know. This is
if we dilly-dally, yes. The inflation is going to take effect. Councilman Johnson, you have your hand up again?
and then Mike as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to weigh on that idea of this amount and the kinds of things we could spend this amount of money on. We do have a very significant reserve right now from one-time revenue sources that can go toward, or the best thing to spend it on is a one-time expense. And I struggle to come up with a large number of projects that would not also have very large operating costs down the road. For example, I'd love to get us one of those really neat city trolleys, not the kind that are on rails, but they're on wheels. We had one in San Luis Obispo that could just drive all around town and pick up folks, maybe every half hour at any stop, and they just run around our city. That sounds awesome to me, and we could easily afford that as an upfront cost. But the operating cost of running a transit system like that, I think, could very quickly become unsustainable. So it's hard for me to come up with things that are strongly desired by the public that add up to this kind of a sum of money. And this project, from the surveys and from some anecdotal evidence of canvassing in past elections, has significant support, especially the 6-lane version. And for those reasons, I think that this is a good option for where to spend those kinds of funds.
Meredith, or you were next, that's right.
Yes, sir. Understand that the cost going up is not solely inflation. Every year there's new regulations. Every year there's new ADA requirements. Every year there's changes in code. So as those occur, things get more expensive. These costs also are a bit squishy. We don't have a design. A lot of those decisions haven't been made. It's possible that we could put a metal building up. I don't know what the community standards are, and that would cut the building costs down considerably. So there's other decisions that still need to be made that have a heavily effect on this. This is kind of a worst case scenario at this time based on the information that we have and the current codes. You delay things, codes change, things get more expensive. Seismic code changes every time the books get rewritten, and it never gets cheaper. ADA changes every time. Well, it actually changes more frequently. The books get written, and often that drives a heavy cost also. So it's more than just inflation. It's a heavily regulated environment.
So
I assume coming to the podium is like raising your hand.
yeah,
Yes,
pretty
Drew.
much. I think got that. Yeah, nonverbal communication standing up here usually. Yeah. So I just want to make sure to remark, we've built in contingency into this of roughly 17% the total cost. So the $29 million includes 17% for contingency as well. That's just in case there are additional inflationary pressures and some of the things that Mike has talked about just now for the most part. That contingency
Like
there
$5
is
million
help-
a squish.
Right, trying to cushion maybe some of those impacts that might happen. He also suggested that maybe, depending on the materials, that we may have to use, for example, that maybe that cost is actually somewhat less. As he suggested, we don't quite have, a firm number necessarily to work from, and that will develop over time as we get through design. Because during design, the engineers are going to come up with a cost estimate, and they're going to go through line by line, for example, determine what is the unit price at that time and how much material are we actually going to need. Because as of right now, what we've got is something, but it's not exactly completely refined yet. And so over time, that refinement will come through design work that we do.
Back to the other one. Part of the reason I wanted us to have this conversation. So I understand 2.5 million is coming out of general fund. So that's some existing revenue we already had that is coming over into the CIP program. You're also the bond is you are committing some, if we go down this route, you're committing some portion of our sales tax and REIT for the next 30 years will go to repay that bond. Okay, so it's not it's a little more than the dollar figure you show here. You need to add interest, administration fees and things on top of that. And then you will cover that over 30 years, but it does commit a portion of revenue.
Yeah, I don't want to stray too far away from what we have in the CIP. So it could be REIT, for example, it could be a portion of sales tax. We haven't quite defined that with council yet. There's considerations and maybe an excess property tax levy. which would.
Wait, you're gonna overcharge people on their, no.
Well, yeah, they would vote on something like that, but then we could potentially consider other sort of revenue measures, such as maybe a utility tax increase or something like that, that council would be able to vote upon. Or we find a way to carve that out of our current, right, REIT, for example, in order to fund that. So right now, it's kind of undefined about how we would pay that back, that bond service over time, and that's what we've reflected in the CIP at this point, so.
And 250,000 from the fire department or fire station levy could go over to this.
Right, so in essence, right, so the
Because it
$250,000 that we currently collect in order to pay that bond service, that's going away after the end of this year.
Yeah.
So if we come back with a request for a $510,000, right, annual excess levy, right, for example, that, that would certainly help to mitigate or offset some of that request overall, is because the difference overall to the taxpayer will be roughly $260,000 at that point of
Just
additional.
about 6
Yeah.
cents
Yeah,
more
yeah.
in
Mhm.
levy, right?
Yep, correct.
But twice what we were paying for a fire department, right? That's what we're talking about.
Well, it's a fire station that was built in 2002, so
Right on.
it's a lot less
Right
expensive.
on,
yeah.
but it's also a fire station, and my understanding is we're talking about, in the future wanting to build another one of those.
Yeah, so in essence, I think some of what we may propose is a facilities maintenance plan, and we got to build out those kind of blueprints overall over time of when are we going to be replacing that fire station, right? It's got a 20-year life right now. Can this fire station extend to 50 years? Well, those are some of the questions that we'll have to, right?
Not according to the fire people. The fire station that we built, according to them, is not in the right place, and we really need two other ones instead of that one. And
Yeah.
so, we gotta. I imagine that fire stations in the near future are going to be more expensive than they were in 2002.
A lot of this discussion will have to take place, right, regarding our council priorities overall, right? And so that's really up to the consideration of the administration and you council to determine what is the highest priority for the use of these funds.
This is really helpful, by the way. Thank you very much, Drew.
Okay, I just want, from my standpoint, though, the material currently present makes no comment of future tax actions, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It doesn't make
Okay,
any
so
comment
my
regarding that.
my assumption in the get-go is we do this, no new taxes until you advise otherwise, if that's not gonna work. Okay, so do need to need
Yes.
to nail that down at some time or another as we get into this consideration. Okay? All right.
Yeah.
There's no thought, but I lost it. All right. Councilmember Johnson, anything else?
The only other thing was that there'd been talk about where it was built may or may not. Thank you, Tara. I know that you're hungry.
The best point of the movie right there.
I'm happy. Are you happy?
So depending on the location, that there may need to be an elevator, and that could have a substantial cost. And I was wondering, is that still the case, or have we been able to find a way to not?
So the proposal is to actually put the pool where the tennis courts are. So we would get rid of doing the excavating and add retaining walls and elevators. And that was like over $1 million savings by doing that. So there will be a cost for moving the tennis courts, but it won't be the $1 million.
Be a different $1 million.
Nope, won't be $1 million. Our expert, he's moved tennis courts in the past.
I built tennis courts
He's built tennis courts
and pickleball courts.
and pickleball courts. So we would get some pickleball courts out of these as well. So
I'm a yes.
Had you at pickleball, did we? But I thought, how much was taking the tennis courts out and building new ones?
Well, I don't know how much to take them out, but I'm estimating about $100,000 to put in new ones.
Really?
It's just asphalt.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, exactly. There's a tricky component to it, but we're gonna get Dylan to take care of that.
Yeah. All right. I'm good with the conversation. I need to chew on it at this stage.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was really helpful. Thank you so much for answering all those questions.
Councilman Johnson, you okay? Are you happy? All right. And that was our agenda item for discussion. We had Riverview Park with that, and CIP, but they're not, I guess NA means not available for tonight, or,
No, it's ready. I'm ready to
Oh.
go.
oh, well,
Not a page number.
oh, not a page number. Okay, I didn't know what the NA meant. Okay. You want to talk the, pool, is the pool project part of the conversation we just had, or is it another conversation?
We just took care of 1 and 2.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk Riverview Park.
Can I, thank you. Sorry, I'm battling Zoom. The box is covering the button I want. There it is.
That's a beautiful play. We're not getting rid of that playground, are we?
So, Riverview Park Playground, we discussed it at the PEC Parks and Events Commission meeting at the last meeting. Just a reminder, this is the playground we're looking to replace. The amount budgeted for the project is $422,000 and 266. We have $48,000 in contingencies budgeted for a total of about $450,000 available whole project. So as we were discussing with PEC, this was the playground that they, on a vote of 6-1, 4-1, 5-1,
4-1.
4-1, sorry, recommended to go with, which is the all play structure. It's a train themes structure at approximately $420,000 all in. The unique feature about this structure is that it is an inclusive playground, meaning it's designed to permit wheelchair access up into the structure without having to transfer. This is one of the renderings we have. This is another rendering that was shared. I'm sure glad that all the Zoom stuff that's covering up the picture on my computer doesn't show on the screen. This is probably the best rendering that we have that shows the complete layout, includes a swing bay. All of the structure will be on solid surfacing, no more chipped wood or chipped rubber chips. Wheelchair accessible throughout. Currently, the photograph's showing some musical instruments all clustered here next to the on-ramp. And I think that would cause congestion in that area. So I've already talked to the designer about spreading that out throughout the area, and he agreed. So those would relocate. But the entire train and this first slide area is wheelchair accessible. So the wheelchair can get throughout that entire area, along with enough room for kids to pass. And then there are stairs in this area up to the second slide area, also with a little climbing wall and a rope. And then there's a climbing structure off to the left also. The second place playground, which we're saving for another playground replacement in the future, is this Treehouse Design. This is made by Burke. Its price tag is about $300,000. That price will need to go up. There are certain design features on this playground where it's not on the same level as the other playground. For example, this playground uses wood chips around the swing bays. We would want that to be the same solid surfacing, which will add anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 to the price of this playground. This is an ADA accessible playground, but it is not an inclusive playground. There is no wheelchair access into this structure. There are two transfer stations where one of them is right here at the bottom of the stairs, where the wheelchair, individual using wheelchair is expected to transfer to that platform. And if they have enough upper body strength to pull themselves up into the structure to utilize the features. It meets the federal requirements, but it's, yes, sir.
So $60,000 potentially to make the surface under those swings the same as the rest of the play area.
Correct.
That's so $60,000 that's upwards of 20% of the total cost of the why would it be so expensive to surface that section?
So the surfacing that we are speccing is the mid-price model. There are three types of surfacing that's acceptable that meets fall protection standards. You have the chipped wood, which is the absolute cheapest initial cost. Initial cost. You have poured in place, which is what this is depicting, which is your mid-range. And then the most expensive is actually 2x2 rubber tiles. Those are the most durable, and the maintenance cost is effectively zero. If a tile gets damaged or a gum gets stuck to it, because gum, when it bonds to this stuff, you can't ever get it off. Staff goes out there, pops the tile out, pops the tile in, and you're done. Poured in place is a softer material. It does over time break. To make conductor repair, you have to cut that area out, remix the chemicals and pour a new area, hope it matches, it never does. It is softer, so the swings wear it out. We have a workaround on that, so we're not experiencing that anymore. And that cost is not as low as the tiles. It can be, a few $1,000s to do those repairs, or if you have to bring somebody in, it could be upwards of $20,000 to do the repairs. Then you have the wood chips. Now the wood chips is the cheapest initial cost, but those wood chips are expected to be, by regulation, to be fluffed by staff every month with rakes. Every 6 months, they need to be added to, and every 2 years, they have to be totally replaced. So I prefer the tiles because once you do that, you're never going back to mess with them. Currently, we have this spec that poured in place, which is the mid-range option.
I guess it's just a math question. I don't understand why that section would add 20% more to the project.
Because it's approximately a third of the space.
Okay.
And the surfacing is actually one of the most expensive components.
So the surfacing it's more expensive than like the structure or anything like that. Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Joe has his hand up. Councilman Johnson.
Oh, Councilman Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like the inclusive playground a lot, and if we could just kind of aim toward trying to make as many of our playgrounds inclusive as possible at a reasonable price, I think that'd be a wonderful way to go. That said, I realize we can't do that for every single playground, but as many as we can, I really like that. I'm sure that the additional pieces, like the inclusive swings, for example, I'm guessing that those are probably pretty pricey, which may be why we're not seeing that here, which is fine. But let's see. Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out was, see that, that's a cord. The other thing I want to point out is that in my experience of playgrounds, which now I've got a decent amount, it seems to me that the musical equipment and informational boards, like the cartoony picture of the environment that was on the other playground, they really do seem to wear out fairly quickly. So if there's anything we could do to just try to think about making them as durable as possible, I don't know what that would entail, but that would probably be a good thing, because I can imagine, especially those informational boards, wearing out both in the sun and the rain for that matter, and with kids poking at them and touching at them. Yeah, I'll probably poke at them and touch at them too. So they're just going to be fading over time. So I don't know what can be done to make those as durable as possible, but just something to think about.
I haven't gotten into the actual selection of the musical instruments. There are different levels of quality there also. And I don't want to buy anything that's going to wear out quickly. I've been disappointed in the past where I spent thousands of dollars for effectively a Home Depot bucket upside down on a post. And I felt quite cheated by that company. So that's definitely something that we'll be looking into. As for the swing set as depicted, that is not what we would go with. We would go with some of the more inclusive equipment on those swings in a couple of the bays. Not all of them, just a couple of them. This is just what the designer put in to represent the swings.
One other thing with regard to swings that I really appreciate now as a parent is the kind they have at the playground at Lake Sammamish State Park, where you have the two seats, one for like a parent and one for, say, a toddler, that kind of face each other. Those are really awesome. I don't know how much they cost or if we can fit one in, but those are pretty cool.
That is my plan, to replace one of the infant swings with one of those.
Cool.
I have a question. So on that picture, you mentioned it is wheelchair accessible. So can they go down that slide with wheelchair?
Not with the wheelchair. They would transfer out of the wheelchair and then go down the slide, and an attendant would bring the wheelchair around to them. But what they don't have to drag themselves effectively through the play structure to get to that wheelchair. They could, there's a transfer platform right there at the slide. It's usually like a 1 foot step or right there that's a little wider, kind of like a threshold at the bottom of the stairs. So it's a lot easier and facilitates their, rather than having to climb all the way through the structure just on upper body strength.
Good. That's good.
And I have put in wheelchair swings in the past. They are somewhat problematic. The way they work is there's a 4-point strapping mechanism that straps the wheelchair to the platform that swings. And those straps get stolen quite often, vandalized, etc. And they're extremely expensive to replace, like a couple $100 per strap per time. And I would recommend against going that route. The structure itself really kind of isn't really safe. There are pinch points where fingers could get lost. So I would not recommend putting in a actual wheelchair swing. But we can put in a seat with the 4-point straps that they can be transferred into and swing.
Well, and let's see, how do I say this? Let's do be aware that Riverview has started to collect more adult clientele and who might have a tendency to take those straps. So
And-
that should be a consideration as we're moving forward.
And this playground will help fight that. It's been my experience in my career that when there's a a new investment in a area like that, that brings in lots of parents and children, that activity finds someplace else to occur because they don't want to do it in front of parents and children.
I like that thought. Okay.
So no action, discussion item only. The plan is that I'll be bringing, we're going to go negotiate the contract now with All Play. And then we'll be bringing that contract before you at the next Parks and Public Works Committee meeting to then go on to the council at the end of the month for final approval. And then the hope is that lead times on this material will be reasonable and we can break ground sometime in September.
Sweet.
I think it would be helpful for these in the future if the Parks and Events Commission has access to these numbers. I think that would help them with their decision-making process as well. I'm not sure if it would have had any, caused them to change their preference at all or not. But I think it's helpful information for everybody in a decision-making capacity to have.
We will make sure that happens in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And rumor has it this playground has Richard's vote.
As what?
What?
Richard's vote
Oh, there you go.
across the street.
Yeah, I think it'll theme really well with the downtown.
It's great. Nice.
And then we also had, get back up here, the CIP.
Just an opportunity to ask questions if there's any. We have Jen and Drew here and available. I got Patrick online. I don't know if Jeff's online. I got Patrick online. Oh, I don't have Patrick online anymore. I'm here. So if anybody had any specific questions you want to ask prior to the council meeting. Otherwise, always feel free to reach out to us and talk. We could set up a meeting somewhere, or you can come to my place and we can go through it. I got lots of resources there in the building I could pull in for impromptu question and answer periods.
And great.
Yeah, I'm gonna plead. I had a holiday weekend and did not work up any items for discussion on my part. Councilman Benjamin, anything?
I'm absorbing the discussion about the pool personally, so that's enough for me to chew on right now.
It's like Joe has. his hand up.
Councilman Johnson, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just one quick thing, which is there any update on the timing for getting some of the work done on the sidewalk replacement and repair program, and just sort of how is that progressing?
It's running. The people are working. I think maybe they're not here this week because of the holiday. I have not seen any activity this particular week, but they are moving through the list and completing the work. And they're scheduled to be here for several more months. So if you're looking at a particular crack or area sidewalk, it's just going to take time to work through them all. I think they have a crew of about 12 working through that project.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think there was, well, I thought I saw some work on one sidewalk, but it's all right. Okay. Any other discussions or items for review for us? All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Councilman Johnson, you okay with an adjournment?
Yep.
And so is your constituent. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.